So Joe Biden has his expansive plans for infrastructure, his American Families Plan. Now, all of this is going to require and does include in the proposed legislation a variety of new taxes on the wealthy. They are by no means historically insane or radical taxes. The taxes on corporations don't even re-raise the corporate tax rate to the level it was at something like 4 or 5 years ago. But that does not mean, just because they're quite reasonable, that the rich are not going to complain about it. And some of the most influential rich are doing just that, with people like Jamie Dimon, the chairman and CEO of JP Morgan Chase, saying that if lawmakers plan to raise taxes, he would want an itemized list of what the money would be spent on. The sort of request that I unfortunately can't say certain words on the show in response to, but I would love to, because you're one dude. Who cares what you want? But unfortunately, while I can say that, Yasmin, there are a lot of people in DC who do care about what he thinks or wants, what people like him who are CEOs of banks want. So we're gonna have more of his commentary, but I want your sort of knee-jerk reaction to Jamie Dimon saying, "I demand accountability and an itemized list of receipts."
I just feel like we've gotten a lot of really rich, elite, entitled news stories lately, and it's exhausting. How are these people so out of touch and they don't even realize it? In the case of Dimon, he is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. So I'm assuming he knows a little bit about money and the economy and all that. But why does he think he's entitled to an itemized list? And it's not just what's available online already. If you go, you can look up how the government budget is spent and where so-and-so money goes. It's not a complete list though. And what he's asking for is ridiculous. He wants to know how many miles of freeway is gonna be built with this new infrastructure plan and things like that. I don't know why he thinks he is entitled to that or why he needs that. The one thing that I think we can all agree on is nobody likes to pay taxes. And that's the thing is, where are my tax dollars going? My tax dollars paid Omarosa like $100,000 1 year to do what? I don't know. I'm not happy about that, but it's ridiculous.
Well, that's funny because our Francesca joined me for our weekly top 10 list this week, and it was the top 10 things we don't want our tax money going to. We neglected to include Omarosa's salary, but you're right. Yeah, so you asked the question, who does he think he is? Well, look, unfortunately, I guess the joke is on us. He's a guy that largely gets whatever he and the bank that he represents wants, including tens of billions of dollars, if that's what he wants, unfortunately. Now, I wanna give you a little bit of what he has to say, and then we'll discuss some more. He says, just throwing money, it doesn't work. We already waste tremendous sums of money. Look, considering the massive amount of money, over $25 billion that was given to his bank during the Great Recession, when they were saying, well, like we're actually doing pretty well compared to these other banks. We don't really need the money, but like we don't want to be singled out as not getting the money. So I guess he does know something about wasting great amounts of money. His salary, for instance, in many of these years, I would consider a tremendous waste of money. So he is somewhat of an expert in that area. I will grant him that. But he says, and this is what Yasmin was alluding to, on highways, how many miles are you gonna build? How much is it going to cost? When's it going to get done? Who's responsible? On education, he doesn't think that free community college is precise enough. How many kids are going to graduate? How many kids are going to have a job at $65,000 a year? Why that specifically? Lawmakers and the administration owe that to the public, he said. They should promise, if you're going to give me your money, I'm going to be a good steward of it. And here's what I'm going to accomplish, and I'm gonna report back to you. Now, notably, he expects that level of accountability and responsibility from the government when it comes to free community college or maintaining the highways, not setting the tax rate on banks and bankers, for instance. There, it's just the Wild West, anything goes. How many CEOs are gonna be making $6.5 million a year in bonuses, Jamie Dimon? I want accountability and I want it to be itemized. But no, he's not expecting anything like that. But look, generally, the sort of stuff that he's talking about, we're spotlighting it because his belief that he gets to individually demand these things, I find to be petulant and annoying. But it's also kind of dumb. They do this stuff, you moron. That's what they're not just like, here's money for, they don't put the money on the highway and rub it a little bit and see what happens. Yes, they do studies of what's going to happen and how many, they have bids on particular projects that by the way, have a length of how many miles of highway or high speed of rail and those sorts of things. These things are done. I don't know if he doesn't know that that's how it works, or he wants to imply that there's not that level of semi-rigor. I don't know, but I do find his commentary to be annoying in multiple different directions at the same time.
Yeah, it is strangely reminiscent of Demi Lovato and the cookie incident at the Froyo place. Are you familiar with that? No, she went into a Froyo place in LA somewhere and she saw something that triggered her. It said like guilt-free or something on the cookie. And as someone who in the past has suffered from an eating disorder, she wanted to work with it. First, she tried to take them down on social media, the small business in Los Angeles. As we're finally coming out of a pandemic, she wants to take down the small business. And then she's like, oh, well, I'm willing to work with them on their messaging so that I don't feel triggered whenever I go to this particular Froyo place. And just the level of entitlement, she got railed for it. Nobody was happy about her response or her reaction, even though maybe her intentions were good. In the case of somebody like Dimon, who is a CEO of the largest bank in the United States, if he does ask for an itemized list, maybe the government will give it to him. People give JP Morgan money all the time. If you look at the history of JP Morgan, it's insane. When it first started, the original OG JP Morgan, the actual guy, he started it back at the same time around like when Carnegie and Rockefeller, the big industrial revolution with the United States. And he was the one who really championed conglomerates, monopolies. He really liked to push different companies together and consolidate them and maximize their authority and their influence in government. And for a long time, JP Morgan was functioning as our national bank because we didn't have a national bank. So maybe coming from that long line, that long legacy, maybe he'll get to his itemized list. And maybe he'll let us see it. That would be cool.
Yeah, exactly. Look, and there's gonna be congressional testimony and they're gonna do all this stuff. Like it just,
it's exhausting.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.